All right, everybody, welcome back to the Be That 1% podcast. So grateful that you are here. And wow, it has been such a powerful 30 days coming back from Forge in Costa Rica and feeling the effects of, how an environment filled with intention, heart, growth, the right amount of conflict and challenge, what that can do for one's psyche, spiritual evolution, emotional maturity, and coming back from that, feeling a whole nother sense of empowerment to create at a new level. For me, that was such a reminder that when things are done right, and by right I mean with intention, with love, with alignment, with passion, with curiosity driving the journey, as opposed to control and fear, what that can produce, and now creating a level of standard of what I want to create, how I want to create, and how I want the process to feel. And so been really marinating in that thought process and what's to come in the future. And I'm really, really excited for the projects that are coming online and the clients that I'm stepping more into or working with, and the caliber of content of people continues to rise. So sharing my gratitude for that, and also the gratitude for you guys being here and getting to witness my journey and also our journeys, interweaving throughout this process. Whether you've been listening for a couple months or a couple years or since the beginning, thank you for being here now. And today, having been in so many different industries and situations and contexts, I could tell you that there's three kind of big things that, when dealt with to a level of skill, can make all the difference in quality of life, in quality of product, of service, of relationship, anything. Quality of anything automatically enhances when you can deal with what I call the big three. And the big three kind of interferes with momentum. It can prevent people from newer levels of confidence. It can stop them from newer levels of insight, of mastery, of skill. And we're going to go into each of those. And, I'm happy to go deeper if after this episode you want more of it. But I'll give you kind of an overview of these three and kind of a little bit of a breakdown of how I think about them, and then how you can apply these strategies, this thought process to what you do, whether you're an athlete, a business owner, a husband, a spouse, a mom, a dad, brother, sister, or just someone looking to better themselves. I think you'll find at least one thing that you can walk away from this episode doing that will change who you are as a person, if taken daily and if done in the way that aligns with you. So the first big thing is how well you deal with change. Change. We typically and more naturally do not like change because it disrupts what we know. It forces us into a space where it's new. And how do we react in this new place? There's a lot of potential for pain or embarrassment, or me not being as good as I want to be, or how do I operate? There's a lot of questions that get produced when one is experiencing change. It can rattle people into grasping the familiar, even if familiar is not healthy. This is why people may stay in relationships longer than they need to, or stay at a workplace environment that they know is not healthy, but to leave would be change. And with that change comes a whole brand new set of X factors that could be a lot to deal with, right? And so there's this quote that says, most people would rather live in the predictability of captivity than risk the uncertainty that comes in a fight for freedom. And wow, what a powerhouse statement, right? Most people would rather live in the predictability of captivity, meaning they become captive to the idea of being able to predict, meaning they want to be in environments that they believe they have control over, so that they have power, or that they have an understanding of what they can expect. When thrown into an unknown environment where there's tons of change, there's, again, lots of things to think about there, right? But those that can lean into change, recognizing that change is ever constant, that it's part of the journey, that in order for your zone of genius to continue to deepen, your mastery to come online, your skill set to flourish, your impact to increase and deepen, you got to get used to change. It's not going to stay the same. Maybe there's some core elements that, time and time again revisit, but there's seasons. The seasons can be somewhat predictable, but how those seasons unravel in your life, that's unique and different to everybody. And so rather than spending time fighting the change, which we almost do every day, we have to learn flexibility, right? To flow like water, as Bruce Lee would say. And anyone who's a parent will know that change is just embedded into your daily flow. You think that you're going to get up early one day and go to the gym at 5 a.m. and then your child wakes up at 1 o'clock a.m. sick and throwing up in the bed, and now you have to tend to that, so you're exhausted. Do you still get up at 5? Probably not. If you do, kudos to you, but then a lot of other things might shift with your energy levels and priorities kind of take precedence. And so there's things that we just aren't going to go the way that we think they will. It's like Seth Godin has this phrase that says missions are always better than plans, because missions, when plans fail, missions don't, right? And the mission might be to get across the street. Your plan is to go one route, but that route doesn't become available. You got to find another route to get across the street. The mission has always been to get across the street. So get across the street, right? Same mission is to go to the gym. Mission is to hire the right person for the company. The mission is to whatever. But being resourceful, being flexible, being adaptable, being like water to change is essential, right? So what's your relationship to change? How do you view it? Is it something that you avoid? Is it something that rattles you and you go back to those predictable comforts or those vices or those unhealthy, toxic situations, environments? That's something that you're going to want to know and be able to work with. And it's something that only you can answer. Maybe you bring this conversation to your loved one, to a friend, to a colleague, to your boss, to whoever. But by really exploring how you respond to change will make all the difference in the type of leader you are, the type of person you are, and the quality of experience that you experience and also bring to the experience. Number 2 is conflict, right? If you are a growth-oriented person, you can't grow without conflict. Jeff Bezos has this line of thinking, and it might even be a quote, but I heard him say that he's more comfortable with conflict because he knows on the other side of it is new, different, a learning, something better. It's in the tension that things get formed and restructured and reformatted. We need that conflict. We need that hard conversation. We need that hard truth. If no one cares enough to tell it, to share with it, or to share it with us, then we never get that information. If we all are just yes people or go with the flow and meanwhile becoming passive aggressive on the other side because we're afraid to face the thing that we fear might be true, then we're allowing fear to be stronger, fear to be bigger, and us to be smaller. We become a victim of our circumstance. And so, leaning into conflict. Yes, when your heart starts racing, that means that you're embarking on a new territory, and that's not bad. That means you get access to a new vantage point of reality. You're expanding your perspective around the life experience. You're enhancing your capacity to handle hard things, and hard things will always come your way. It's a never-ending cycle. The process never ends. The only thing that can get better is your capacity to hold it And when your capacity increases, your fear can minimize in the face of that conflict, because you'll have proof and evidence that you, one, survived, two, maybe even handled it better than you did, and three, done it so many times that you've learned to trust yourself even when in the hardest of hard situations. So trusting that conflict is happening for you is the play. That is the game. Can I view this hard thing in front of me? Can I view this thing that I want to say, that I fear if I say will change my relationship with myself and others, will change, how things are currently going, and trust that on the other side it's happening for me? We're going to have a hard time with conflict if we don't learn to view it that way. Conflict is necessary. Conflict is pressure, and pressure reveals cracks. If you're building a foundation, you're going to want to know where that faulty foundation is. And you may not be able to see it to the eye, but if you pump some gas into something and you see where those leaks are, you can shore those up in making sure that your foundation is a bit more sturdy. And so when that storm does come, when more conflict arises, when harder things come your way, when the weight continues to pile on, things don't crumble. You become stable and still. You become the eye of the hurricane. Number 3, uncertainty. Uncertainty. There was a documentary, I think I've mentioned it before on the show, called Stutz. It's on Netflix, and it's Jonah Hill's psychiatrist or a psychologist, and it documents Jonah Hill's kind of journey while he was in therapy. And one of the things in that documentary that Stutz says is like life's 3 truths. No matter who you are, socioeconomic status, age, demographic, doesn't matter. Life has 3 things for you. You can't get out of them. 1 is uncertainty. 2 is pain. And 3 is work. No matter what you do, cannot escape those things. You can't predict the next moment. You don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. We can try and predict what we think is going to happen, which is what the brain does every second of every day, which is where a lot of anxiety can come from and living in our head can come from, trying to protect ourselves from the future unknown, uncertain pain that we believe might be there, but maybe isn't, or we make there by thinking it so much that our nervous system just adapts to that way. That's kind of just how we're wired. We got to learn to unravel some of that thought process, reboot and revamp some of our nervous system programming that's come from our environments, from our parents, from the stories we continue to tell ourselves that are only half truths. So there's going to be pain in that. And that is going to be work. You can't get out of work. Like whether it's physical work that you do for a living, mental work, emotional work, spiritual work, work is always going to be there. So work is not something to be avoided. Work is something to be embraced. And then it's about to find the work that aligns most with you. Because when work aligns, it doesn't feel as much like work. In fact, in a lot of ways, it can feel more closer to play than work. Especially when you're challenging yourself, that's when you can get into flow. And that's where, the most optimal states that human beings can experience can really come through. But it's going to require the interplay of change, conflict, and uncertainty, and your comfort with those 3 things that will make the difference in how you show up to any space. And so showing up to this moment in the uncertainty, knowing that you can't predict it, right? Showing up to this moment with truth. Whatever your truth is, truth in who you are, truth in being able to catch yourself in biases as much as you can, and be as present as possible and as honest as you can in this moment is the only way for your best to show up. And if your best shows up to the moment, then what is best for you can be created. If you show up to this moment half-hearted or half-truth or in a lie, you're attempting to distort reality, which causes you to miss reality, which causes more fractures in your ability to be in the moment where life is happening. And now you're oscillating between the future and the past, skipping over the now. And so if we want what's best for us, then we got to show up at our best. And at our best doesn't mean you're the best in the situation. It doesn't mean you're number one. It means it's your realist version. And your realist version might be that you're exhausted and tired, but you showed up anyway. Your best might be, rather than telling myself and other people a lie about who I am, what I've done, what I think, what I think they want to hear, actually just being real and honest and transparent, then the other person now knows what I think and feel. And yeah, that may change the relationship, but at least now they know, and at least now you've said it. So both people have an opportunity to explore unknown territory, as opposed to a predictable territory that's come from a lie, or that's come from just a habitual way of interacting between people that, kind of dulls life. Life is meant to have a rawness to it, an ever expanding potential of what could be that comes from real honesty, both in verbal, physical, spiritual, right? How can I be as present as possible in this moment with at least amount of baggage, and take the moment for what it is and co-create with it? Not dominate it, not let it dominate me. Bring into it my best, so I invite the best from the reality, from the person, from the situation, and co-create what's best for that moment, for that situation, so that what is best for all can unfold and continue to unfold. And in my experience, that's where life really becomes fun, because you surrender to the idea that you know what's best for you to a degree, and you allow what is produced in the moment that hopefully is your best to just be created one step at a time. It's okay to have visions. I think everyone should have a vision of what they want, and a plan and a goal, and also know that vision can also be limited, in that you take 5 steps toward that vision, and now that vision just 10x'd. You get around one person, that one person asks you one question and shifts your whole trajectory, because you've thought of something that you couldn't see before or think about before, right? So have the vision because it gives you direction. Have the plan because it forces you to prep. Have the goal because it helps you with prioritization and focus. And also know that it can unfold and be something even more beautiful. So don't limit it yourself to it has to be this way. Say this way or something better, and that opens up to the door to countless possibilities that, maybe are way more in alignment, right? So how do you deal with these things? Change, conflict, uncertainty. How can we continue to show up at our best so that our best is then a byproduct? Right? We want to be a better parent. For me, always trying to be a better father. And I am tested every day. Every day. Tantrums, flexible schedules, late nights, it's heavy. And also running a business, and also making sure my wife is supported, and also supporting her visions and goals of going to get her master's degree, right? A lot going on over here. I travel a lot. Up to 30 states, a couple countries a year. Lots of change. Also, lots of conflict. I'm working with people in very tense, pressure-filled situations. Conflict is a byproduct of just what I do as a profession. I've learned to get comfortable with that. Do I still have my moments? Absolutely. Human. And then in those moments, I remind myself, this is part of it. This is a never-ending practice. Daily practice. It's never over. You never are there. It's just a falling in love with that process, right? And then the uncertainty, man, surrender, right? Doesn't mean you give up. Doesn't mean you're done. Doesn't mean that, you're just gonna now just coast. It means all I can do is prep as much as I can and show up with a full heart, and be as present as possible for what this moment has, and let life unfold from there. The more I try and insert control over what cannot be controlled, I'm spinning my wheels, I'm wasting unnecessary energy, and I'm not reallocating that energy to things that I actually have control over, right? So it's like control the controllables. You've heard that before. So my invitation to you is to think about one or all of these three things, what your relationship is to it. What's a small shift that you can make in one or all of these areas that if you were to do that for the next 30 days, one shift in one area, how different would your leadership style be? How different would your conversations with your spouse be? How different would you show up to your relationship with your kids? How would, you show up better for yourself rather than, beating yourself up over your ability to not handle these things very well at the moment? How can you become more of your best friend? More of your own coach, your own guru, your own support system? Because to think that people are going to show up for you every time, not realistic, and probably won't happen ever. And for you to have that expectation of someone would be unfair to that person. It's our responsibility to take care of ourselves to a degree. It doesn't mean we don't push away help, but it means we got to have a baseline of how we can manage these three things with ourselves first, and also be open to help from the outside, and also be open to asking for help on the outside, but also make sure that we're doing what we can. Some of us don't have the tools. That's okay. Get the tools. Some of us have the tools but aren't using them. Use them. Some people have the tools, are using them, and are rising quickly to new levels where they need new tools. Cool. Reach out. Leverage your support system. Build a resource system. Build a world-class team. There's many things that can be done. But let this conversation, let what you're hearing right now be another cue to be yeah, I can be better at that, as we all can, right? Much as I'm talking to you, I'm talking to myself also. So be the change. Be the change. Embrace the conflict. Stop trying to control the uncertain and be in the moment. All right, thank you for being part of this community. Thank you for being you. Go out there